Welcome to the deep dive. We take your source material, pull out the vital insights, and see what we can learn together. Today, we're looking at something quite personal, actually, navigating those moments where, well, words often just aren't enough. We're doing a deep dive into the language of flowers, specifically their role in funerals and memorials.
It is a beautiful topic, but yeah, sometimes a difficult one. When you're faced with loss, trying to find the right way to express, love, respect, sorrow, it can feel impossible. Flowers
Feel
kind of step into that gap, don't they? They offer this nonverbal vocabulary that people have used for centuries.
Exactly. And our mission for this deep dive, using the article you shared as a guide, is really to understand that language better, to explore the specific meanings behind some of the popular funeral flowers, and see how knowing that can help you create a really meaningful tribute. It's about finding beauty, maybe intention, in a difficult time.
Yeah, and the source material puts it really well. It says, when words are difficult, flowers offer this universal language: love, remembrance, respect. Choosing them isn't just, picking something pretty. It's a deeply personal way to honor someone's life, to convey feelings that you might not be able to say out loud.
Okay, so let's get into it then. Let's unpack this. The article lays out what feels like a kind of curated dictionary of blooms, doesn't it, for these occasions? Each one carrying its own symbolic weight.
It does, yeah. And it kicks off with a flower many people probably associate with funerals straight away: the lilies.
Wow, lilies. Yes, they definitely have that feeling of solemnity, grace. What does the source tell us about what they actually mean?
Well, lilies, especially the white ones, are said to symbolize purity and the restored innocence of the soul after death. There's this sense of peace that comes with them, a return to grace. It suggests like a peaceful transition.
Purity and peace.
Yeah, that definitely resonates. Okay, now roses are just universal, aren't they? You see them everywhere: celebrations, somber times. What specific message do they carry in this context, according to the article?
So roses are always a classic symbol, right? Love and respect. But the source really emphasizes how the color becomes crucial at a funeral. Red roses, for instance, they signify deep love and sorrow.
Okay.
White, again, points towards purity and reverence. And pink ones can offer a note of admiration, maybe gratitude, for the person.
Ah, so it's not just a rose, it's the specific color that really fine-tunes the message you're sending. You could acknowledge deep love and gratitude just by picking the right colors. That's quite thoughtful. Okay, moving through the article's list. What's another flower with a strong cultural connection mentioned?
Chrysanthemums are highlighted next. The source points out their really strong association with mourning in, well, quite a few cultures,
Mhm.
particularly across Europe and Asia. They generally represent grief and honor for the departed. That's fascinating how symbolism can shift or get amplified depending on the cultural background. Are there other flowers mentioned that represent those core ideas, like grief or remembrance?
Yeah, carnations are mentioned as being common and meaningful. They symbolize remembrance and affection. The article even gets specific pink carnations for gratitude and remembrance, and white for pure love. So there's white, again, linked to purity across different flowers.
Remembrance and affection. Pretty direct message there. Okay, what about something that maybe feels a little more unique or perhaps enduring?
Well, the source brings up orchids. It describes them as conveying eternal love and beauty. They're sort of presented as this lasting tribute to someone unique, a cherished soul. Choosing orchids could be a way to say that the love, the connection, it feels timeless.
Eternal love. Wow, that's a powerful sentiment to capture in a flower. And gladioli, they always seem quite assertive,
I agree.
strong-looking.
They do stand tall, don't they? The article connects them with meanings like strength, moral integrity, and character. It suggests they can be a really fitting way to remember someone who was, you know, a pillar of strength,
Mm.
or just a person of great character in your life.
Right, connecting the flower's actual form to a personal quality, that feels very intentional. Okay, what about hydrangeas?
Hmm?
They're so lush and sort of abundant.
Hydrangeas, the source says, express heartfelt emotions, and they can symbolize gratitude for someone's impact on your life. It's about acknowledging the fullness of what that person meant, maybe thanking them for their presence.
Gratitude for their impact. That's a really lovely way to put it. And then we have forget-me-nots. Their message seems pretty straightforward.
Oh, absolutely. The name says it all, really.
Mm.
They're just a simple, delicate, very direct way to say, you'll always be in our hearts. You won't be forgotten.
Yeah, hard to miss that meaning. And daisies, we often see those associated with innocence, right?
Exactly. In this context, the article confirms daisies represent innocence and purity. They might be chosen when remembering someone younger, perhaps, or maybe just to evoke a sense of simple, pure love amidst all the complexity of grief.
A reminder of innocence. Okay. And finally, calla lilies are mentioned. They have that very distinctive shape.
Right. Calla lilies, according to the source, they symbolize beauty and rebirth. They can represent the peaceful transition of life, offering a sense of maybe graceful continuity instead of just a stark end.
Sure. Wow, we've covered this incredible range of meanings, from purity and peace right through to strength, eternal love, gratitude, remembrance. It's really clear that flowers aren't just decorations in this context, are they? They offer specific, quite nuanced ways to communicate feelings that are just so hard to articulate sometimes.
Precisely. They really do provide a language when words fail you. And understanding these specific meaning, it allows you to make choices that truly reflect the person you're honoring and the specific emotions you want to convey.
But the article doesn't just stop at the symbolism, does it? It moves into some practical thoughts, too, about translating this language into an actual tribute. How does the source guide us there?
Well, it really emphasizes tailoring the choice to the individual. That's the first practical tip. Consider the person's personality. Their favorite colors, their style, maybe blooms that just felt like them. It shifts it from generic symbolism to something deeply personal.
That feels key, doesn't it? The flowers should feel like an extension of that person's spirit. The source also highlights thinking about cultural or religious traditions.
Absolutely crucial. For respect, for appropriateness.
Yeah.
As the article notes, white chrysanthemums might be perfect for mourning in some cultures, but red flowers could be seen as completely inappropriate in others. When in doubt, the source suggests that white flowers are generally a widely accepted and respectful choice across many traditions. A safe bet, maybe?
That's good practical advice, especially navigating potentially sensitive areas. What about the actual presentation, the arrangement itself? Does the source talk about that?
It does. It outlines some common forms, explaining what they're typically used for. Like standing sprays are often prominent right at the service. Wreaths and hearts. They symbolize continuity, everlasting love, often used for display. And floral baskets are quite versatile, often sent directly to the family's home. The source basically suggests talking to a florist. They can guide the choice based on the setting and the kind of impact you want.
Right, so the form itself has a function, and maybe its own subtle symbolism too. Interesting. And there was a note about thinking beyond the day. What was that about?
Yeah, that's a really thoughtful point. The source mentions that some flowers, like orchids maybe, or hydrangeas, they just last longer. Choosing those could mean the tribute continues to offer some comfort, a visual reminder in the days or even weeks after the service. It extends the impact of the gesture.
A lingering message of care. Okay, so the article seems to wrap up by connecting this sort of transient beauty of the flowers with the enduring nature of memory.
It makes that exact point. While the blooms themselves will eventually fade, the memories, the sentiment they represent, that doesn't go away. And by combining this visual language of flowers with other forms of tribute, personal messages, shared photos, spoken memories, you create something multi-layered, a deeply personal way to honor a life.
Right, so it's not just the flowers on their own, but how they contribute to the bigger story of remembrance, setting a tone, evoking feelings, complementing the stories being shared.
Exactly. They provide this beautiful, tangible element to what is often a very intangible process of grieving and remembering, helping to weave together the different threads of a person's life and their legacy.
So what's the big takeaway from this deep dive into the source material? It's clearly much more than just picking out some pretty flowers.
It really shows us that choosing funeral flowers is, well, it's a profound act of communication. It's a way of saying, quite unequivocally, you mattered, you are loved, you will be remembered.
And by understanding this rich symbolism, by thoughtfully considering the person, their life, their personality, and thinking about how the flowers fit into the overall tribute, you can select blooms that don't just mark an occasion, but genuinely reflect the spirit of the person and the enduring love that's left behind.
Yeah, combining those meaningful floral choices with personal messages, shared memories. It creates a tribute that really speaks volumes. It bridges that gap between, fleeting beauty and everlasting impact.
And here's something really interesting to think about, maybe. Flowers are beautiful, right? Their presence is powerful in the moment, but their nature is to fade eventually. Yet the memories they evoke, the profound sentiment they represent, that assurance that the person mattered, that they will be remembered, that feeling that lasts long after the petals are fallen. So how does this blend, this combination of transient natural beauty and enduring human connection, how does that speak to the very heart of remembrance itself? Something to consider.